This week you asked us to watch the documentary The Power of Art and answer a few of the following questions. The first question was, what did he learn about the life of Jacques-Louis David and the artist and political role he played during the French Revolution? Basically, what I learned is that he had a rough since the beginning. His father was killed in front of him in a pistol duel. From there, he was sent to his uncles, but they wanted him to become an architect or a lawyer, but he was always interested in art. Therefore, they sent him to his mother's cousin, which is Francis Boucher. He was the most famous French artist in that time, which actually kind of helped him. And then also something that probably affected his whole mind was that he was involved in a sword fight and he got a slash on his cheek, as you can see kind of right here. You can kind of show it, not really, but it became a tumor and it got swollen. His enemies called him David with the swollen cheek. He wouldn't speak because not many people understood him, and when he did speak, he knew he was being ridiculed by all of them, by everyone that was around him. So basically, that's what I learned about his life. Now, his artistic and political role kind of go two and two because he was a propagandist. He used his art to motivate the citizens to show them and persuade them what they're supposed to do and what a good citizen does. So that's basically for question 1. Question 2 was, what did you learn about the artworks presented in the film? What do they have to do, and what do they have to do with the French Revolution? So as I mentioned before, most of them are propaganda. Well, some of them. For example, this one, Oath of the Herati. I think that is propaganda. It's based on, like, every 2 years, the Palace of the Louvre hosted an art show, and it was free, which meant like the poorest of the poor could go. And this was who David was trying to hint at. He wanted to persuade them. This painting shows a country in crisis, in war, and in order to avoid war, they choose 3 Romans to fight against the enemy, and last one standing wins. Basically, he's just showing that right here that all they care about is winning, conquer or die. That's what the father told them. And regardless of the fact that one of these men is married to one of the enemies. So, that's kind of shaky, but they don't care about that. They just want to win for their country. It was estimated that more than 60,000 people were going to come in, and they were all everyday people. And at this point, when they came in, they saw it, they were excited but scared, but that's because it was relatable, because this was when France had joined in to help America to win independence, but that would come to a huge cost. So prices were rising, taxes, the poor had to pay taxes, the clergyman, rich man, they were tax exempt, which is kind of relatable to what is going now in the world, which I was like, wow. But yeah, anyways, that's this painting. I don't know if you can hear my computer overheating, but that is this painting. The next painting was this one. This is just he was super rich. They got married when they were 13. He was a chemist. Well, she was 13. He was older, I'm assuming. But she was a true wife. She really actually cared for him. She would translate his books and make images for his books, all that. And yeah, they paid him in order to make them look good, charming. And that's pretty much it. After the revolution, he ended up getting guillotined. She was saved. I think she was in prison though. Anyways, this next one was showing a big point of what they thought was in history, but little did they know that it wasn't. It it wasn't gonna last for very long. They all met up. Um, Now it was they were deciding whether if it was gonna be the old way, which meant like the clergymen, noblemen, and commoners met different. They never met together, and all this, or if it was going to be a new way, and for the first time ever, they were going to meet up and become one united nation. I'm not sure what happened, but one of the commoners, he rose up and he said, "We are legit." He invited priests and nobles, and surprisingly, a good amount of them showed up, and they were locked out from the meeting hall when they tried to meet. So across there was a tennis court, and that's where they met. And this is where all of this is taken action. That's what it's called, the tennis court oath. This is where they oath to, like, it's gonna be a new place. We're gonna start blah blah blah, like, fill up hope and all that. Little did they know, like, this painting was never finished, because by the time that, even before David painted their bodies or anything, most of them were dead or imprisoned, unfortunately. This next painting is Brutus. Basically, the father found out that his sons were going against him and trying to bring monarchy back, so he had them beheaded, and he shows no emotion. He literally does not look back, and you can tell the mothers right there are crying, weeping. Like, you can see all the emotion from the mothers. But for the father, the only show of emotion, the only type of emotion he's showing is this right here. His feet are kind of compressed, and that shows like some sort of he's trying to hold his emotion, and he's like, oh. But yeah, basically it was the art shown in this documentary is basically all talking about the revolution, and whether I feel like this one and this one were both meant to persuade or scare. I think this one's persuasion, this one's scaring, like kind of telling them, don't mess with us, because we're not playing around. And then the next question is, why was the portrait of Jean Paul Marat eventually so controversial? Who was he? How is he different than how David chose to persuade him? Okay, so this is a big one. Let me drag this up a little. So he was a balloonist, film inventor, newspaper editor, and fanatic. I liked how they described that in the documentary. Basically, he suffered from an itchy skin disease. It left his skin all flaky and and the bathtub was where he spent most of his time. It's the only time where he would be the most comfortable he would ever be. And yeah, his paper was called The Friend of the People, and this is where he first of all, I want to say that he gained credibility by he shared a story saying that the Queen was uniting with his brother, I believe, Austrian brother, and rallying up against France or something like that, and that ended up being true. So then people started believing what he said, and this is where he took the opportunity to call out false patriots and claim them to be traitors. And yeah, so every time he would make a list, he would post it, and they would get the guillotine, unfortunately. So he was murdered. That's basically who he was. Why was it so controversial? I feel like the controversial part and how they depict them, they go hand on hand, because so he was an evil person. There's no joke there. Corday chose to murder him because she felt that he was it was all his fault. Like, not his fault, but he was a big part of all of this that was happening. Sorry. Anyways, so yeah, she murdered him. She left him. She got into his house by claiming to be an informant, and she gave him a list of people who she claimed to be traitors, and the last thing he said was, I'll have them guillotined by next week. So now the way that David chose to depict him, he chose him as, right here, goddess, honesty, and patriotic selflessness is what he wanted to portray in this painting, by doing little things of like making, even though he was rotting already and looking green and disgusting, he still made his skin look light and like stone-like. The letter he has right here, obviously it's not the letter that Corday left him. That is, in this letter, David just wanted to make Mara look like a victim of his own kindness. And right here, there's another letter which was supposed to be sent to from a widowed wife from a fallen soldier, and he was gonna send her a donation. And he did a lot of little things, like also like the wound that from the knife, of like when he was stabbed, he made it look very Christ-like, like delicate, and the way it looked when Christ had all his wounds. And I feel like that was because he wanted to compare them, like kind of showing that he was very much of a saint, which he was not. I want to make that clear. And what else? Yeah, that's pretty much. Oh, the blackness. He left a lot of empty space on top, and he doesn't really focus on whether if it was a room, a wall, but they're feathery like strokes, and I feel like he chose this to have an infinity amount of space and time, make that seem like that, like there is no infinite to it. And I feel like that's what he wanted to do, because in the documentary they said that this was more of Murad's revenge. He wanted to make sure that people don't forget this, they might forget his funeral but not this. And I feel like by leaving the blackness on top, it made that very impactful. And then the last question is, after the film, just tell me what you think about this artist, his work, and the documentary in general. Did I enjoy it? Okay, so what did I think about the artist? David is a very, very smart man. He knows what he is doing, and he is very aware of what emotion he is capable of portraying. Basically, even when he was imprisoned, he made his self-portrait, the one I showed here earlier. This one, and this is a younger him. This is not him at the time. He is just showing himself as a painter. He's just, why me? I'm just a painter. And he left his coat open to show that his heart was opened, and all this and all that, blah blah blah. Anyways, he still didn't learn, because he went back to painting for Napoleon after after he was released. But it did work, because he was freed from prison after that painting. Anyways, I just wanted to share that, so to see how much of an impact he had in persuading people or causing people certain emotions. He was very good at that. And then the documentary in general, at first it was very hard for me the first part was pretty hard. and also the accent and all the French names. There was a lot of things that I didn't catch, questions I had. Hopefully through an email we could answer these, or maybe through the conversation that you have there. Anyway, I did enjoy it. It got to a point where I was like, like when they say that he was guillotined and all this and all that, but I don't know. Oh, I also forgot to say that something he did very bad was just killing people, was sending people to get killed just for the fact that they weren't crazy about politics, which I feel like nowadays we would all be guillotined because not many people are crazy about it. Anyways, thank you for recommending this documentary. I learned a lot about the French Revolution and what went on, and I really did enjoy it. Thank you.